There are two tools inside of Marvelous Designer that can help us quite a bit streamline the process of creating garments, as well as eliminating some of the guesswork that can happen when we work with complex avatars or complex shapes and we're doing garments in 2D view as a standard way of creating garments. And the tools I'm talking about are Line, and another one is called, well, Line as well. Basically, the first one is it's a line that we create on the garments, and the second one is a line that we create on the avatar. I'll begin with the one that we make on the garments. So the way it works is basically like an internal shape, like a polygon tool. We simply need to click, and then we create the shape that we want. Just like the polygon tool, if we hold on Control and we click, we get to make a curve point instead of just the segment point, the standard point. In this way we can create some custom shapes, whether it's some kind of pockets or some patterns, something that is not necessarily very clear to visualize. So instead of going into here and trying to figure out the shape of the piece that we're trying to make, we can do it immediately and directly on the garments. This is also a good way to mark some things. This is not just to create shapes or patterns or cuts. This could be used to create lines for us to simply use as guides. So if we want to make a cut somewhere, let's say across a seam, somewhere in here, for example, we can use this tool as well. We can simply draw the line, and this way we know exactly how those things are connected, and we can see them on 2D view as well. So if I turn off the colors for the garments, as you can see, this is where the line is, and it's easier in this way to create some kind of shape that correlates those points. But we can create internal shapes and internal lines without leaving this tool. So all we need to do is we need to select the Edit Line tool, and if we right click on one of the lines, one of the segments, or if we double click and we right click again, we get to choose quite a few options. So the first one is to add point, and the point is added where the right click happened. So for example, if I click here and I press add point, the point is added here. This is just a standard point. As you can see, the lines the angle between the lines is sharp. If I want to add a curve point, there's an option to do that. Simply add curve point, and then there's a way to duplicate this symmetrically, so the shape transforms to the other side as long as the symmetry is there. And those two are options to create internal shapes or polygons. If I want to create let's say if I wanted to create a shape out of this sketch, I simply need to right click, and if I press trace as internal shape, this will leave this line intact. But if I press convert to internal shape, this line will disappear, and instead of this line, there's gonna be an internal shape. So if you want to maintain the line, to use it for some later time, we can press trace. But if we don't need it, we can press convert. So I'm gonna convert this. Now this is just a standard line, standard internal shape that we would make using a polygon tool. And if I go in here, I can select the shape and press clone as pattern, put it somewhere. out of the way, and then we can do anything we want. We can sew this thing and basically do the standard procedure that we do every time we create a garment. Apart from sketching on the garments to create new pieces of clothing or some kind of patterns, we can also use this tool to cut things off. This works only if one of the points either connects to an external segment on the garment or is drawn across it. To illustrate, I'm going to use the pants. I'm going to begin by clicking. I will hold Control so the line is curved, and I will trace the pants across the leg. When this is done, if I go into Edit Line and if I right click, there are a few new options appear, and they're kind of the same. It's cut and sew. It's exactly the same option if we were using the internal shape. The only, I would say, difference is that there's a new panel for the symmetry, so for the symmetrical lines. So if there was a symmetry, if I had another line in here, if I simply duplicated this across, I could use the symmetrical option like that. But in this case, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to press Cut, and as you can see, the line disappears. But if I scroll down in here, we can see that the garments are no longer connected. So I can come in here and I can remove the pants. The thing about this tool is that when we create the lines, when we create those kind of sketches, the lines snap to the surface, which means that once they are placed on the model, they're not going to be exactly clean and precise, as can be seen in this case. There was a big fold in here. It wasn't a circle, so the line was snapping to the surface, and that's why we got this kind of curvature. And so this is something to be mindful of, but this is not a problem, because we can always go into Edit Curve Point, and if we want the line to be clean, if we want it to be more accurate or in the way that we want it, we can simply remove some of those points.
If you enjoy this content or find it useful, please consider supporting me by buying me a cup of coffee via the link in the description.
The second tool is Line on the avatar. This is a really great tool when we have very complex shapes, something that we can't really trace in 2D view. As you can see, I have a somewhat abstract shape. You can imagine to be some kind of piece of armor on the body, but in 2D view we can't see anything. We can't really see those lines. We can't see any shapes. It's just some kind of blob in 2D view. So if we wanted to create panels on this piece, if we wanted to create some kind of clothing that follows those lines, it would be a fairly tedious process to create in 2D view. There will be a lot of guessing game involved in this process, but thanks to the line on the avatar tool, this process is really intuitive and very efficient. So the way it works is just like the line on the 3D pattern on the garments, as well as polygon tool. So we simply need to select, then we click, and again if I hold Control on my keyboard and I click, I get to make a curve point. So I'm going to follow this line If we want the shape to be more geometrical, more precise, we can hold the shift key. As you can see, there's a line appearing that that works as a guide. The points basically snap to this line. So if I click somewhere and then I hold on the shift key, I click again here, there's a new line appearing. So it means that I can either choose this direction, this direction, this direction. So if I choose this one, a new line appears. I click here, and then I simply need to close the shape. On the segments that don't have any curve points, like in this case, there's another option if we right click on one of the segments, and the option is called flattening as straight line. And if I press on the line that has all the curve points, if I right click, there's nothing here except for the option to add points or to add curve points, just like on the previous tool. But on the straight segments, or the segments that don't have any curve points, the option of flattening as straight line means that when this garment is going to be created, this segment, this shape will stay straight. There won't be any kind of curvature happening in here. I will illustrate it in a little bit. So to create the shape out of what we've made, we need to go into the next tool, which is called flatten. Once we have our pattern, our shape that we want, we simply click on the shape, and as you can see, nothing really happens except for the shape becoming highlighted. And if you can see the text, it says select all areas to be flattened, then press enter. So if I press enter on the keyboard, the new garment is generated for us. And if I go in here and I click flatten as straight, you can see the color of the line changes slightly. It becomes more, it becomes thicker. So it's an indication for us to know that those two lines are going to maintain straight when I do the flattening. So if I come here, I click and I press enter, the new shape is generated. And if I go into the 2D view, this is our newly generated shapes. This is the garments that we can do anything with. We can cut it, we can create internal shapes, we can offset lines, and so on. And for this shape, it's not exactly a good example because everything here is well, it's straight, simply because the surface where I put this shape on was flat. There's nothing really happening for the lines to become curvy. It's very subtle, again, simply because this is a very clean surface that I have underneath. But you can see that there is a slight curvature on this side, whereas this side is completely straight. And this is because I pressed flattening with straight line. And if I go into edit curve points, we can see that there are a couple of curvature points added to this line to accommodate the shape underneath this garment. And just so I don't miss anything, when I said that this tool works just like polygonal tool, it means that basically most of the options are basically the same when we create it. So if we are tracing our shape, and for some reason I my hand slipped or something happened and I got distracted. If I wanted to get back and undo the mistake, I don't need to press escape. Instead, I can either press backspace or delete on the keyboard, and this will remove the last created point, and this way we can continue working on the shape.